Ubisoft had their quarterly earnings, which might not sound too exciting, but I always enjoy listening to them as they reveal a lot of info about the future with investors asking the right questions and Ubisoft obviously feeling some sort of need to respond to these shareholders. So yes, we got some new info on the next Assassin's Creed, Infinity. We know a bit about the success of the previous AC games, many delays were announced, and we kinda know what Ubisoft's next financial year, starting April 2022, is going to look like. And there's still room for some unannounced projects, but no word on Splinter Cell, by the way, during this investor call. We learned recently that Ubisoft greenlit a new project. The title is still in an early phase of production, the sources said, but there's a small chance it could be announced next year. But no mention of that from Ubisoft whatsoever. Still a lot to go over though, so if you enjoy these big Sunday videos, then don't leave a like to show your support, and let's go. Maybe you already saw the news about the game delays. It's actually pretty common that in October, during their financial call, Ubisoft delays a lot of big titles. Last year it was Far Cry 6 and Rainbow Six Extraction that got pushed to beyond March 2021. And now we learned that The Division Heartland and the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake are being delayed to fiscal year 23. And good to note is that when I mention fiscal year 23, it means a launch between April 2022 and March 2023. Remember that Rocksmith Plus subscription service they announced during a Ubisoft Forward? Well, that has also been delayed to that period, just like Roller Champions, the roller skating sports game. I mean, they said that it could still launch in early 2022, they're just not sure. So I think it's basically pushed to beyond March 2022. And I mentioned this before, but I played this game all the way back at E3 2019 when it was still in person. I think by the time it comes out in 2022, it will have a dev cycle of almost 5 years maybe. And the reason why they're constantly pushing the launch of these free-to-play games is that at launch, they already want these games to be adapted to player feedback. You have to nail the launch, otherwise it's hard to get people back into the game. So they do a ton of playtesting, and when those reveal that a ton of improvements can still be made, they delay the game. So the same happened with Division Heartland, which should be the biggest free-to-play game they plan to launch in the near future. X-Deviant, the character-based Call of Duty style game, wasn't talked about at all, by the way, so I really would not be surprised if that's still far away, while they already had some tests for that. And they briefly touched on Ghost Recon Frontline, the new Ghost Recon free-to-play battle royale game that is currently sitting at 20,000 dislikes on the revealed trailer. The test for this was also delayed, and they're now trying to make sure it fits with what the players want. I mostly think the whole fact that it's a battle royale game is not what people want, so I'm curious how much they're going to change. But Ubisoft did win back some Ghost Recon fans with the new free update that's coming to Breakpoint on November 2nd, which basically looks like a whole relaunch for the game with a brand new mode, new enemies, new weapons. It looks pretty massive, so will be interesting to see how that does. But yeah, in short, 80% of Ubisoft's investments are focused on significantly expanding its premium offering for the coming years, meaning that the other 20% is focused on free-to-play games. These games are still going to take a while with the insane focus on playtesting, and it also makes our theory that Quebec was looking for testers for an Assassin's Creed Odyssey inspired free-to-play game even more likely, and I will leave a link to that video at the end of this one. Now let's talk Assassin's Creed. Valhalla is namely the second largest profit generating game ever for Ubisoft, likely behind Rainbow Six Siege as the number one. And Ubisoft said in the financial call that before Valhalla, Odyssey was the most profitable game in the franchise. So I think it's safe to say that Odyssey is the third largest profit generating game ever for Ubisoft, which is huge. So quite a lot of pressure on Assassin's Creed Infinity, which is going to be the next big AC game after those two titles. And we now learned for sure that it's not a free-to-play game. I don't think that was ever realistic, looking at the fact that they combined the teams that made Odyssey and Valhalla. This is going to be a monster project, likely the most expensive AC game they ever made, and yes, it's still in those early phases of development. They started in April of this year, according to Jason Schreier, and it should of course include multiple settings and stories into one, with more added post-launch. Ubisoft once again said that there will be a lot of narrative content in this game too, and that's nice to hear when you also hear words as online platform and live service. But yeah, as I mentioned before, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Odyssey are also live services according to Ubisoft, so that's what you should kinda expect. And because it's still very early, I think we're looking at a 2024 or even 2025 release. But in the meantime, Ubisoft promises meaningful paid content every year, as noted by Stephen Totillo, who also listened to the investor call. And this was the answer, by the way, to someone asking if we will see a new Assassin's Creed next year, which would make sense because there has never been a 2-year gap between big releases. I think it's unlikely though, with Valhalla having a big second year that will likely last till October or something. Like, I think that's going to be the premium content for 2022. 2023 is then still a question mark, but yeah, with both AC teams on Infinity, I find it hard to believe that we get a big mainline game before that point. Again, still the free-to-play game, a mobile game is in the works, but yeah, those are likely going to be, again, free. So I'm not sure what the premium content for 2023 will be. Fingers crossed for that AC1 remake, of course. They did talk about a ton of other projects that are planned for fiscal year 23. So again, between April 2022 and March 2023. They finally plan to launch Skull and Bones, which just hit another milestone, they noted. It's of course a new IP, and they said that it will combine an open world with naval combat and multiplayer. So it seems like the latest rumors saying that we cannot leave our ship are likely going to be true. The re-reveal will maybe prove me wrong, but I think it's going to be a really hard sell if this game only has naval combat and will not let us leave our ship. Crazy prediction, I think I said it before, but I think this game might launch day one on Game Pass, because then they already have some investment back and they want to have people playing this game because it is a live service. So will be interesting to see. The new Mario plus Rabbids game will launch in this period too. They expect great things because the Switch install base is 10 times larger than what it was when the original came out. So that should be pretty big. And Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is likely Ubisoft's biggest game for financial year 23. Should launch next to the movie, which planned for December 16th, 2022 in the US. So I think a November-December launch is what they're aiming for, and it should get supported for years after the release. Not sure if you're aware, but after the launch of Avatar 2, they want to launch a sequel in 2024, then another one in 2026, and then another one in 2028. So I think the plan is, instead of launching a new game with every movie, that instead they will just do updates to Frontiers of Pandora and then hope, of course, that more people come back with every new sequel. This is, of course, a first-person open-world action game, kind of like Far Cry, but in the Avatar fantasy world. So next to those big titles and the delayed games I mentioned, the free-to-play titles, we should also expect more premium titles that are not announced yet. So there's totally a chance of some sort of new AC project. I still doubt it. My prediction is that we might get a new Far Cry New Dawn style game based on Far Cry 6, maybe during the time period of the legends that we of course meet in that game, so that it actually is a prequel to Far Cry 6. Would be pretty interesting. And we're also getting multiple AAA mobile games. Yes, you're going to hear that very often this generation. So Ubisoft plans to launch multiple during financial year 23. They actually delayed the soft launch of one of those titles from early 2022 to fiscal year 23. We don't know what the titles are. We know Division is getting a mobile game, so it might be that. And we know that, like, you can kind of predict Rainbow Six would make a lot of sense. We have a Call of Duty mobile game. Battlefield is doing one. Overwatch is actually rumored to have like a mobile game coming as well. So I think Rainbow Six free-to-play mobile game makes a lot of sense. And we know they're doing a AAA Assassin's Creed mobile game built for mobile first on the Unreal Engine 4. So maybe we see that already sooner rather than later. Other interesting tidbits are that next-gen platforms is the #1 platform for all the cross-gen games that Ubisoft release, meaning that when they put out Far Cry, most sales are on PS5 and Xbox Series, which is wild because the consoles are not even 1 year old at this point. So that bodes really well for the success and for publishers moving finally into next-gen only games, which in the end should benefit us, of course, when these consoles hopefully get more available. So it will still be a while, but I think we are moving next year really into that direction, which is interesting. And there was no word on Watch Dogs. I'm really kind of scared for the future of that game. Legion just did not set the world on fire. There is a countdown timer now for the Battle Pass for Legion, which is ending on this Tuesday, so maybe they're doing an update, but apart from that, we don't know anything really about year 2, and I really think that we won't see like a big game this generation. I would be shocked. maybe they're doing a free-to-play thing, or like changing that zombie thing into a free-to-play thing. But yeah, I would not count on a lot of Watch Dogs stuff, which is kind of sad. Again, it wasn't mentioned at all, just like Hyperscape, by the way, but who cares at this point. So, I want to ask you normally, of course, to leave a question in the comments on this video. You can still do that, but I'm mostly looking for feedback on what you want me to do at the end of the video. So, answer questions, or tell something else, or something like that. And I'm also still working on like a better format for these Sundays videos, so that every Sunday you know what you can expect. Well, right now it's kind of random. So instead of answering a question, I want to plug a stream appearance I did. Namely, last weekend was on the Legacy Gaming channel. They did a charity stream, and during the 2 hour 30 minute mark, I show up and they asked me about like how I got into content creation, the future plans of the channel, which might be interesting to you. And we talked about some games, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, what we kind of like, and how we see the franchise evolve, all that stuff. So if you want to see it, I will leave a link to it in the video description. Again, a 2 hour 30 minute mark. And yeah, enjoy if you haven't watched it yet. For now, I will see you in the next video. Subscribe, of course, for more of these Sunday videos. We got Far Cry content planned, more Valhalla stuff. Maybe a Watch Dogs thing if they're planning to do an update. It's gonna be interesting. And yeah, we'll see you then. Goodbye. Oh, don't forget to watch that video on Odyssey, and that Ubisoft is doing more with Odyssey regarding that free-to-play potential project. You can watch that by clicking on the screen. Now I'm really gone. Goodbye.